So does anybody have any particularly relevant questions right now? All is reasonably clear?
When you're watching events, thoughts, physical processes arising and passing, I think if you have a certain kind of attention, you can see them happening over a duration, the duration of a breath, for example. Is it possible to see arising and passing happening much quicker than that?
Depends on what you give attention to. You know, like you say, there's mental processes going on, but can you distinguish the differences in the diversity of mental processes? Like, I mean, there's a memory for the past, a thought, a plan for the future, or an idea about the future, a fantasy pops up, could be this, could be that. You know, there's a great diversity to mental activity.
Those things all seem to take some time to unfold. There's like a bunch of things that happen.
Yep.
For you to have a memory.
Yeah.
Image. Or thought.
Yeah. I mean, as you know, you have that, you know, that theme in your mind, and then the more you increase mindfulness, you can begin to kind of pick it out, as it were. You know, like there was an exercise that some teachers recommend in some techniques in Asia. They say you should try and label your mental activity. I found it very helpful in the beginning, but later it got in the way. But it was very useful in the beginning because I also, okay, mental activity going on, blah, 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 blah. But then now just try and label it. Oh, is that a memory, or is that a plan, a thought for the future? Is that, you know, what kind of mental activity is that? You know, I had so much mental activity that it just was like a storm going through, you know, hard to kind of pick it apart. But having to stop and consciously label it, it was a bit of a headache. but I did find it very useful because it didn't make me stop and look, is this a memory or a thought? People distinguish those two. Like I say, it was helpful in the beginning, but then I found it later, it got in the way of, you know, the conceptualizing and the giving it a label got in the way of the direct experience. But it did help to, you know, make those things clear, the distinction between, you know, the kind of mental activity. And like, for example, there's this thing I call sankharas, one of the mental functions. There's a whole bunch of different mental activities in there. Intention or will is one of them. There's also decision, there's also attention, there's thinking, there's a whole branch. And in one of the Buddhist texts, they differentiate 50 different mental states. Things like mental flexibility and mental pliacity. Pliacity?
It's a good word.
Pliable.
Plasticity.
Plasticity. Yeah. I think I make up my own words sometimes. You know? Yes, yeah. So, but I mean, you don't have to look at, you know, distinguish all 50 of them. I don't think, but just pointing out that there is quite a diversity, you know, of mental activity, for example, and even, you know, kinds of knowing, even calm. You know, we say calm's four-letter word, but there's a whole different, you know, a whole range of different degrees of calm. I mean, you know, the Buddha helps us a bit by defining four major levels of calm, the absorptions, you know, but there's all kinds of calm. There's also not only these degrees of calm, but I mean, there's kinds of calm. There's some kind of calm which was common in Thailand because of the heat there. You know, so there were monks, many monks were very calm. But it wasn't very clear either, you know. Ajahn Chah would probably say it's the calm of a water buffalo, you know. Can't say it wasn't calm, but it wasn't very clear. So you know, energized calm or lazy calm, or, you know. That's one to kind of look out for, because, you know, when you are lazy or your mind is dull, it does seem calm, but it's because of lack of energy. It's not actually, you know, not actually real calm. You know, real calm is energized calm. Your mind is calm and alert and wide awake, not half asleep. You know? You got, I say, difference between tranquility and sleepiness. You know, Okay, somebody else? One back there, yeah.
You mentioned contemplative, and I'm wondering if do you choose a topic that you want to think about?
Well,
That means?
well, from the practice, I think the insight meditation comes from the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness, is the Buddha gave particular themes to follow. Being aware of, mindful of the body, feelings, states of mind, and then particular themes, Buddhist themes. So these the Buddha realized are most useful themes to contemplate. I mean, if you contemplate, what's the origin of the world? It's kind of, you're wasting your time probably, but if you contemplate the nature of feelings or sensations in the body, this can lead to the ending of suffering. This is where what our suffering is in the body, feelings, states of mind. These are the sources of most of our suffering. So that's what we have to look at. And it's generally the area we don't want to look at. People are very good at distracting themselves, looking at reality. So we can get very high-minded and say, I wonder how, what's Saturn like? What's it like to go to the moon or something? Where's that going to? Is it going to solve your suffering? It's a grand thing to think about, but is it really going to solve your suffering? So there are themes actually to contemplate.
Body, feelings, states of mind, and what was the fourth?
The fourth is it's called, it's like particular Buddhist themes. A theme, like when you observe states of mind over a period of time, you notice there's patterns there. Like there are 5 hindrances, things that pull the mind down. There are 7 factors of awakening, which lighten up the mind. The 6 senses, which I already mentioned, 6 senses, that's one of the themes. The 5 groups of grasping, and the 4 noble truths. Those are particular themes to contemplate, but they are particular Buddhist themes which you have to study maybe beforehand. So anybody else? Didn't you have a question? Or
It was more related to the morning conversation.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I can help my son. He is all the time angry or we talk to him, speak to him, and remembering the past all the time.
Mm-hmm. It's very hard to help anybody else,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's enough. We have enough to do to help ourselves. But if you can, find a way to work on that theme yourself, you know how to do it. You become an example, for example. Example, yeah, right. For example, yeah. And then maybe then you've learned certain skills yourself, which you can be passed on, without becoming a kind of trying to convert them or trying to tell them what to do, because that could even feel even more angry. Don't tell me what to do. But if you become a living example of it, they see something different. They can be a different way. Can be a different way of functioning in the world, and which is much more peaceful and happy and well. I'm sure people who are angry, at some level, they know this is not pleasant. Not pleasant to be angry all the time. But many of them are caught in habits, a habit loop, and they just can't break out of it. And it's like it become like a reinforced habit of mind and identified with it, and so it's not so easy. Especially trying to tell somebody else too. Yeah. But if you work out on yourself, that's a challenge for you. Yeah. And I was talking to that lady about friendliness. I mentioned friendliness. This is I would say it's a very, it's a radical negativity, for example. Most of us never even heard that before. And for some people it might sound a bit crazy, huh? Does it sound crazy to be friendly to your anger? Does it sound crazy? Something like that sometimes, yeah. But I'm not saying you have to love it. I'm not saying you have to like your anger. But you can be friendly to it. Just acknowledge it, that it is part of your experience. So you can befriend parts of yourself, or you can make enemies with your parts of yourself. Which you choose. I mean, if you had a choice, isn't it better to be friendly with even your negative aspects, rather than be at war with them all the time? But it takes practice, because it's not something we do normally. But the practice of friendliness is just trying to be a little bit more receptive to, open to, friendly to, as much as you can. Whatever is you can see as something negative or hostile or something like that, just don't react with hostility against it again. Again, reinforce that hostility. Try and be a bit more open to it, and okay. If you begin to do this practice, you realize there is so much energy locked up in anger, which is wasted by trying to dissipate it outside somewhere, blame somebody for it. If you can tune into that energy, you come alive again. You can tune into that energy. Rather than destroying yourself, it becomes your friend. Yeah. You befriend your anger. Wow. Wake up. Yeah. You just like get a recharge, and plugging into the recharge. It's like recharge. Yeah. If you can. It does require a practice.
Yeah.
I was giving a retreat in, forget where it was, Switzerland somewhere. The first night I came into the room, and there was a lady sitting in a wheelchair. And nobody told me about that. I don't know how to teach walking meditation to somebody in a wheelchair, So I don't know what to do. Anyway, I just gave the introductory talk. And then she said, and I said, okay, is it clear enough to people? She put her hand up and says, how do you deal with pain? And I didn't know. So all I said, I could say, friendliness, metta, friendliness. And then she said, what do you mean be friendly to the pain? I said, have you got any choice? She says, I have osteoarthritis, and I wake up with pain, I sit with pain, I eat with pain, I sleep with pain all the time, she said. And so I said, well, have you got any choice but to trying to be friendly to it? She stopped. Yeah. So give it a try. I didn't know either if it would, if she could do it, But she sat there, very diligently every time she was there at the meeting, and she sat there, and every once in a while I look at her, trying to smile appear on her face. And at the end of the retreat, I said, well, how did it go? She said, amazing! I have no pain anymore. It surprised me too, I didn't know. But she was desperate. So she was really desperate to do it. Most of us, we hear, oh yeah, be friendly to our anger, yeah, good idea, yeah, right. And go home and just fall into her anger again, But she was desperate, so she really applied herself. And it was a transformation in 2 days, So even though I can't do it myself sometimes, but I know it works. I'm gonna be desperate.
I appreciate that instruction, being friendly to anger. I never really thought of that, because meditation is like my main meditation practice. I find it a bit more hands-on to the breath, like it's easier to do. So I memorize the metta sutta, and I think, well, I'll just switch my anger to something else. But this is a good technique to be friendly to any aversion. Mm-hmm. So that's working. I like that. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Yeah. And you find it shifts. That's the main word I use is friendliness, but it's actually at different times and different situations you apply different approaches to it. Sometimes it is a matter of just being non-contentious, just refraining from fighting with it. That's a kind of friendliness. Other times you can make an effort to actually be positively a bit more friendly, because there's something in that. It's telling you something. Anger's there because of a reason. It's not an ultimate reality. It's there for a reason. What are you angry about? What's triggering it off? So you can try and welcome it in sometimes, and okay, what are you about? What are you trying to tell me? And other times you can openly kind of open your heart to it and really receive it in all of its various ugly faces. Your mind needs to usually be pretty calm to do that because we have a whole backlog. All of us have a history of unresolved suffering and pain. And we always reacted to it with anger and frustration and pushing away, and we haven't resolved it skillfully. So it's always in the background somewhere. So you start to work on it, and gradually it can come to the surface, and so, even images come up, and things happen in the body, and old traumas come up, and if we can really work with it in that way, and then you see that friendliness, has a kind of a multitudinous ways of being applied and being resolved, helping resolve things. But be careful not to think it's a magical formula. I know some people, they try and use metta to beat out their anger. Beat their anger with more metta. Come on, get up. Try more metta to it. Give more metta to it, and it'll go away. No. You have to surrender. You have to surrender your point of view, you see, because it is, when you're angry at something, it gives you a sense of self. I'm angry at that. But when you start to open to it, the subject-object situation resolves, you see. It dissolves. There's nobody there to be angry at anything. So you have to give up. It's a matter of surrendering. I'm not going to let this anger get me. I'm going to conquer it. Good luck. It won't work. So you have to surrender to it. You surrender to it. And when you surrender yourself begins to become more attenuated or softer, and the anger becomes softer. It's you compressing yourself into a subject, and the anger become two fixed things fighting it out, and you're never going to win. So you begin to be more friendly to it, and it relaxes and you relax, and it relaxes and you relax, and it's resolved when there's nobody there to suffer anymore, nobody there to be angry anymore. It's based on surrendering, not trying to conquer it again.
Yeah, the anger accentuates the feeling of self. That's a good point. Thanks for saying that. Being angry justifies the self.
Yes, yeah.
And your old grudges.
Yes, yeah, and you can rationalize it and all the rest of it, but it doesn't feel good. Still suffering.
So thank you for mentioning the DNA from mom and dad, right? So I just share my view. Actually, the DNA from mom and dad just build up your physical body. So you grow up your physical body, but your spiritual mind, your wisdom is come life after life.
Yeah.
So we meditate and learning the Buddha's view is kind of upgrading your software, like your
Upgrading it.
like your
upgrading your
wisdom.
DNA even.
Yeah. So this prepare for your future life. Like
Yeah.
at the time this life journey, right? So you're upgrading, keep upgrading and learning more, and you prepare for your future life.
Yeah.
So, which means that the physical body is not important. The most important is your soft code, right?
Yeah.
Your app.
Yeah.
So that's how I dimension.
There's also
So parents, they can have 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 kids. So every individual kid's personality is different. The view is totally different. So
Well,
which means your
yeah.
soft
There
code,
is.
your
You say 50% is DNA, 15% is your early upbringing, and 35% is your decisions you make in your life. Yeah. So there still is some changes.
What about the previous
even
life?
more. I
like
think
the
it's
spirit?
more like
Well, I don't know about previous lives. I can't remember them.
oh,
I have
you
trouble
don't
with this life.
remember, but your code, like your soft code, is carry on, right? Life after
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Could
So
be.
your wisdom or your wise is come from before.
Yeah.
But this is true. It doesn't matter you know or not know.
Yeah.
But it's exactly right. we carry on life after life.
There's even some scientists believe you can even change your DNA. Have you heard of Bruce Lipman? What's it called? Something genetics? Esogenetics or something?
Yeah, genetics DNA change is one change is for affect your physical body,
Yeah.
like soft code, right? Like a hard drive.
Yeah.
So then once you're like a cell phone, right? You have a
Yeah.
Apple One, you can download a higher dimension app.
Yep,
It's same thing as a human, right? If your physical body is low dimension, you can't download the high dimension
Yeah.
things.
yeah.
So this is your meditate and then grading. So you can download the high dimension hard drive.
Yeah. But then maybe
That's
maybe that
easy
changes your
to
DNA though.
understand.
It
Yeah.
also affects your DNA in the
Yes,
future too, yeah.
yeah,
So your children are born wiser.
that's right.
Maybe.
All depends.
They only get half your DNA from the female and half, so.
Well, John, on that note, with all this concern about AI, artificial intelligence and what they're up to, you may need to look beyond AI.
Yeah,
And
well,
how that can affect
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
yeah.
When those things are introduced into our bodies in the future.
I don't know much about it, but I mean, it only, a lot of it is computerization. Huh? Does that affect your wisdom, or just your processing power? It's hard to know.
I think it allows you to be controlled in some ways. That's the risk
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
letting the people team on. Include you would call I.
Yes, yeah. Many issues coming up. Maybe next time there'll just be a robot sitting here, just playing it last time's talks. Yeah. They actually have a robot in Japan in a temple
Yes.
doing blessings.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Quite an attractive robot, actually.
Oh,
It is the robot, though. You can really tell it's got, silver head or something or other, and it just gives blessings for people, Amitabha Buddha, something or other. Amitabha.
But then it becomes like our consciousness that differentiates
Yeah.
us from these artificial
Yep.
beings.
Yep. Yeah. They get it to think clearer, but, how do they process the thinking part? Can they get wisdom, or do they just get more knowledge? No, don't worry about it too much. Okay, maybe time for a walking meditation. So, let's see. 2:15, about half an hour.